we recommend they spend their money the way we would have spent the money when we were the client. So they go from like being invisible to being a brand. I think if there's one thing we learned during COVID, if you don't exist online, you're invisible.
Welcome to the Digital Empowerment Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Paige. Paige, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hand over to you and let you introduce yourself and your company.
Thanks so much, Ciaran, for having me today. I'm really excited for our discussion. So I started my company, Mavens and Moguls, about 22 years ago, right after 9/11 happened here in the U.S. It was a very unsettling time in the economy. The stock market dropped hundreds of points and companies just went into absolute panic mode. They were afraid they would never be able to raise money again. So the first thing I think every company did was fire their marketing department to conserve cash. And I had a successful career in corporate marketing at big companies like Procter Gamble and Coca-Cola. And then I left my big corporate career behind to go do marketing at a bunch of internet startups. I was the head of marketing at 3 successful .coms in the early internet days. And then when 9/11 hit, I hung out a shingle and I've been doing it ever since. So it's kind of a crazy circuitous route, but I love what I do. And in a weird way, I feel like I probably have more job security now with a portfolio of clients rather than being in one company with one employer, owning you. I think marketing people kind of come and go pretty regularly with big corporate jobs. So I've loved the platform of my own business and being able to work with organizations large and small all over the world. And I never would have guessed I'd be doing this for 20 plus years.
It's incredible. No, it's amazing. And again, it's honestly my pleasure to be here and have a chance to ask you some questions today. Have the company's mission must have changed a lot over the last couple of years. Have you seen the evolution? Is that a drastic change or is it maybe it's the same?
Well, I would say our core mission really hasn't changed, but a lot of the tactics and tools have changed a lot over the last few decades. So our company really believes that, all organizations, regardless of size or budget, really deserve the best marketing talent and expertise, that you don't have to work for a huge company with a big budget to have access to great marketing resources. And we've believed that from the very beginning. But when I started my business, it was before there was social media, before there was e-commerce. I mean, now it seems impossible to even think about. But like when we started, we did a lot of market research. But back then, market research was like focus groups, with a group of people around a table in a conference room with a one-way mirror, like old-fashioned market research. And you would send out surveys and wait for people to respond. And now you've got SurveyMonkey and Zoomerang. You can do groups online. Everything is so much more available and easy to access and so much cheaper than it was. We also used to do a lot of PR, public relations, early on, and that required writing a press release, getting it out over a news wire. And again, that's kind of not even thought about anymore. Now with everybody having their own platforms on social media, everybody has a megaphone. They can get the word out through whatever platform they prefer. And we're still doing a lot of research and PR. It's just very different now. And I feel like it's been democratized. I mean, everybody has access to the same tools and technologies, and they're very cheap, very affordable. And so we've just had to be scrappy and resourceful and pivot with all the new tools so that we can bring the best resources to our clients. So the world has changed a lot. We've kind of changed along with it, but I think the marketing basics are still the same. You know, finding your target audience, getting the right message, all that is identical.
Incredible. You would mind elaborating on the core services that you offer? I've been really interested to hear.
So we basically do anything a marketing department, ad agency, PR agency, or market research shop does. So like you, we can help people with websites. We can help them with a logo or a tagline. If they're going to a trade show and need a booth, if they need brochures, content marketing. Basically, we're a virtual marketing department for companies that need help on a kind of outsourced as needed basis. So if they want to dial up or dial down, we can be their partner in the trenches and help them out. And I think the fact that companies have that flexibility, they don't have to hire and fire people, it makes a lot of sense. You know, when I started my career at these multinational corporations, P&G and Coke have huge marketing departments. They have agencies of record all over the world. But most of the clients we work with are small, emerging market, 1 million, 2 million to maybe 200 million. So kind of in the middle. And we also work with a lot of pre-revenue venture-backed startups. And maybe they've got a tech department. They have a lot of programmers, but they don't even have any marketing people yet because they haven't launched. So we can kind of roll up our sleeves and help them hit the ground running and keep the trains moving while they get launched. And when they figure out what they really need, then they can hire full-time resources. We also backfill for marketing talent. Like if you have a VP of marketing or a chief marketing officer who's going out on maternity leave, or maybe they need to get a hip or a knee replaced and they're going to be out for a month or two, we can help be a virtual marketing resource and support them while they're not there. And then when they're ready to come back, we get out of the way. So it's a very flexible resource that I think a lot of companies that can't afford all the resources that the big companies have, it just makes a lot of financial sense and good business sense.
And have you seen that marketing over the years has become more specialist? Again, I'm just thinking of myself, the complexities of Facebook. I remember Facebook from a few years ago compared to today. You nearly need to be an expert in it alone.
Well, it's interesting. So I have about 4 dozen people in the organization, but again, very flexible resources. But basically, some of the people in the group are specialists and some of them are more generalists. So I have like people who can come in and be a chief marketing officer, play that strategic role. I also have people who like only do technology PR or only do quantitative market research. So depending on what you need, I can just look into the network and get you exactly kind of the puzzle piece that fills the gap or need that you have. And sometimes, the generalists are busier. Sometimes the specialists are busier. And I think that flexibility is what our clients really appreciate probably more than anything. The other thing is everybody in the group, like me, came out of industry. We're not professional PowerPoint people. We used to be on the other side of the desk where our clients are. So, I think they appreciate the fact that we recommend they spend their money the way we would have spent the money when we were the client. So it's not a traditional kind of agency vendor relationship. A lot of clients come to us and say, I have a budget of X, and whatever it is, it could be 25,000, 50,000, whatever. And they say, here's what I need. And we may come back to them and say, we can do that. But if it were me, I would probably do this for less money, see if you can get some traction, and then come back and follow up with something else. And sometimes they take our advice and sometimes they don't. But we're always very direct and kind of transparent. Like, we know how to allocate a budget. We know how to do all the different parts of the marketing mix, but we're going to give you our very honest opinion. If we think, you can benefit from something that you're not even thinking of, we're going to share our idea. You don't have to agree. The client ultimately gets to make the decision, but we're going to tell them, our best advice no matter what. And I think that's probably a differentiator from a lot of typical vendor relationships.
No, and you can't beat that experience. That's incredible. Would you have any stories where, I guess, you've went in maybe, or examples, and delivered a strategic marketing collaboration to help grow a business?
Oh, we have so many examples. I mean, with the venture-backed startups, helping them find a name, a logo, a tagline, they go from like being invisible to being a brand. And some of those companies have either gotten bought or gone public and become very successful businesses. I have a bunch of case studies on my website. I grew up in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and we worked with industrial products company before Hurricane Katrina happened. We were doing some marketing for them. And then when the hurricane hit, the company had to shut down and disperse. And they had a big trade show coming up, the most important trade show of the year. And we helped them put together a strategy and plan. They went to the trade show. They won all the awards. People were so excited to see them. We did mailings for people going to the show to tell them that these people, had survived the hurricane and this was going to be their first event. And it helped them win a ton of business. It helped them get a lot of new recruits because this company had done such an amazing job of surviving a really scary natural disaster. And to this day, the company is so much better off than they were before the hurricane. So we have a lot of clients, that really struggled during the pandemic. And again, we kind of help them keep their trains moving, keep the messaging out there. And, they're alive and well today because of the support, the partnership that we had to get them through the rough patches. So, I love the fact that we're kind of industry agnostic. We work with consumer, tech, nonprofit, B2B, B2C. We're able to kind of pull together exactly the right team for what the client needs. So it's never boring. We always are excited to help out, roll up our sleeves and jump in.
Incredible. And have you seen any significant trends in strategic marketing that businesses should be aware of today?
So the biggest trend, I think, after COVID, before COVID, because I had come out of big corporate marketing like Procter Gamble and Coca-Cola, at big companies, you always have to do market research before you do anything. So that was really my bias before the pandemic. But a lot of my clients, like I said, are smaller businesses. And we would recommend market research, and they'd say, well, sounds good, but I don't want to waste time or money. We just want to jump in and get going. So a lot of times people just decided they wanted to skip the market research phase and jump right into the creative or jump right into whatever was the next step. I think one of the things that came out of COVID is everybody realizes now whatever assumptions we had about our business before the pandemic, all bets are off. Like the world changed so much that now you have to talk to your audience and ask them, what do they want? What do they need? What are they using? What are they not using? What are they spending? So now everybody believes in the power of research, which makes me more comfortable moving forward, because just think about how much all of our lives changed. What you wear to work, where you go to work, when you vacation, how you vacation, what your habits are for shopping. Everything's changed. And you just can't make any assumptions anymore about, are people virtual? Are they hybrid? All the little decisions that you used to know, we don't know anything anymore. So I think that to me is probably one of the best outcomes, that now everybody really sees power in talking to your customer and your target audience directly, understanding how their lives have changed so that your product or service can be the most beneficial to them in the new normal. I think the other thing that's changed, as I said, we do a lot of PR. And I think for the companies that struggled, they have really good stories to tell. If they got through the pandemic, they've changed, and now they want to get their stories out there. So with all the tools and technologies, all the new platforms, I feel like their new social media, I just heard of a new one the other day that I hadn't tried yet. I mean, it's hard to keep up, but it's really nice that there are a lot of different media outlets to tell these stories. And, you have to feed the beast. There's so many places looking for fresh content, new stories. So that to me is also really great, that when you find these stories, you can get them out there, and it can be very inspiring and motivating to a target audience to know the backstory of how this company got through the rough patch.
Incredible. Wow. PR is very hard, I think, to get landed. Is that the secret then? The story is getting the right story and being able to tell it, because again, when I look at it, I think, wow, getting a story placed for a company is.
I think storytelling is so important, because people don't remember facts and figures. They don't remember data. But if you tell them a story that connects with them emotionally, they'll never forget it. And so I think storytelling is such an important part of marketing right now. All these businesses have origin stories. They have kind of the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs. And that's what people connect with. That's what they remember. And that's what they relate to. So I think that is really one of the kind of killer applications, if you will, of the new normal, is getting your story out there, because that's unique and special and different to you. And especially now with all the artificial intelligence, I'm sure you're seeing it in your business too. There is so much kind of generic stuff being generated by the robots. And the way that you can stand out, the way that you can have a brand that really connects, is to show your authentic self and tell the stories that only you can tell in a unique way that's unique, special, and different to you. And that's what's going to break through and help you stand out from the competition. But, I tell our clients, I don't think artificial intelligence is going to save you. I think there are a lot of good things artificial intelligence can do, but it cannot tell your story better than you can.
I couldn't echo that more. I totally agree. And AI, Yeah, it's interesting, useful, and a challenge at the same time. When we're speaking of challenges, and what would the common marketing challenges that you see businesses facing today?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of kind of natural uh, bumps in the road, I think, for a lot of early stage startups and small businesses. I think a lot of companies, when they're just getting going, they want to, you know, have all the accoutrements of a small business. They want stationery and business cards and a website. But the thing is, you really need to get your story straight, and you need to get reference customers. You need to get those early clients who will be references and vouch for you. So I always tell people, you can be very scrappy at the beginning. You need to figure out what you need to get those early clients and customers who you can use as kind of a proof point to grow your business. And then once you have those reference clients, then you can put together a much fancier website and maybe more collateral material, brochures, but don't start with all the fancy stuff until you know what it is that's resonating with your audience and what people are willing to pay for. Because, what you think your biggest sellers are going to be, if nobody's buying it, you don't want to sink a lot of money and time into it until it's getting traction. Another problem I see with small businesses and my clients, and I experienced it too, when you first start out, you've got your kind of starter group. And as you grow, certain parts of the organization are going to grow faster than others. And some of the people you start with are not going to be there to grow with you. They really are more comfortable in that smaller, more secure environment. And as you start to scale and as certain areas really take off, some of those people get left behind. And it's hard because you need people who have a growth mindset, who feel like they want to experiment and learn and grow. And as the market is changing and new tools and technologies are out there, you don't want people who are like one-trick ponies who keep doing the same thing over and over when the market's moving. So you have to make sure you've got the right people kind of on the bus with you, and you've got the right products and services to offer, because it's just easy to get comfortable and complacent and let inertia kind of kick in. But as a small business, you can't afford to do that.
My last question then, what advice would you give to aspiring marketeers who want to have a significant career as you've had?
Well, you can never stop learning and growing. I mean, I think as far as like professional development goes, you have to, keep your skills relevant and fresh. You have to be reading, attending conferences, learning on YouTube and TED Talks, and really forcing yourself to keep your antenna up. I think you're a student your whole life. You can't just, become a potted plant. You have to keep pushing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, learning and growing. And so, I think if there's one thing we learned during COVID, if you don't exist online, you're invisible. And you have to put yourself out there and be careful that you don't spread yourself too thin. I think a lot of people feel like they have to be on every social platform. They need to blog, they need to tweet. I would argue that you should pick which platforms are the best for you and where do people look for you before they can buy. My clients are not looking for me on Facebook or Instagram. So I don't spend any time on platforms where people are not going to be buying my services. For me, LinkedIn is the one that really matters most as a professional service firm, as someone who wants to be a thought leader in my industry. That is the platform where my clients go, and it really plays to my strengths. But, if you didn't have an online presence during COVID, you were really in trouble because people weren't getting together in person. So you really needed to have an online profile and online activities that showed that you existed. Otherwise, who would want to talk to you or set up a Zoom or go get a coffee? Nobody. So really put yourself out there, tell a consistent story, and pick your battles. You can't be everywhere. If you don't want to start a blog and be responsible to keep the blog going, just contribute to other people's blogs. And then, you can be a voice of, reason, and always be someone that chimes in with a smart comment. But it's not on you to keep the conversation going week in and week out. So really be honest about your strengths and stick to what showcases your particular strengths the most.
Incredible, sage advice. So again, thank you very much for that. And I love the company name. And that leads me into, if anyone would like to connect, find out more about what you do, the services you offer, what's the best way for them to do that?
So the two best things are to go to my website, mavensandmoguls.com. It's MavensandMoguls.com. Or look for me at LinkedIn. My last name has a hyphen. And if all else fails, because I have ampersand in my company name and a hyphen in my last name, my client always says when she forgets how to find me, she goes to Google and puts in Paige and Mavens, which is the first name of my company. And if you do that, I'll pop right up. So thank God for search engine optimization. It works.
I love it. That's brilliant. Excellent. I will have links underneath the video anyway for sure, so people can click through. So Paige, again, thank you very much for your time today. Really enjoyed the chat, and I'm learning every day, so I appreciate all the advice.
Thanks, Ciaran. It was really fun chatting with you today. I really appreciate it.